Thought for the day. Today is Saturday the 17th. This is my thought for the day. Don't just hate those people that are knocking on your door and saying you've got to be saved or you're going to burn. Crazy firemen. Bad. My little instructional comment for the day is, your words are windows to your heart. Matthew 12 verse 34 says, for out of the abundance of your heart, the mouth speaks. This story today is called Like a Shepherd. Isaiah 40 verse 11 says this, he will feed his flock like a shepherd. He will gather the lambs in his arms. He will carry them in his bosom and gently lead those who are with young. I have a fine saddle horse named Nellis. She's rather high-strung and temperamental and has some very definite likes and dislikes about people. In fact, she is so temperamental that I have to be very careful who rides her lest someone should get bucked off. The horse is well trained and I think she resents people who ride her as if she were a pack mule. My eldest daughter Heather is very fond of Nellis, and because of the mutual regard involved, Heather seems to be Nellis's favorite. I'm sure that Nellis likes Heather better than she likes me. And one who has never seen the affection that a girl can have for a horse has missed something very, very beautiful in their lives. A few years ago, Nellis was frightened by something, probably a bolt of lightning or a bear, and jumped into a barbed wire fence. She was about a mile from our house on a grassy hillside where she often grazed. It was Heather who found her, weak from the loss of blood, stiff and crippled from nasty deep wire cuts on her front legs. With tears of compassion streaming down her cheeks, Heather spent 2 hours leading the injured horse down the hill and into our barnyard. I don't think I could have done it. I don't think the horse would have followed anyone less sensitive to her suffering. The pain in those crippled legs must have been intense, especially while Nellis was getting down the steep part of the trail. When I came home that evening and saw the horse, I knew that she would never run again. And she and Heather would never proudly bring home a ribbon from the horse show ever again. But in my human way, I underestimated my daughter's care of her horse. Every morning and every night for several months, regardless of weather, regardless of other activities, Heather devoted herself exclusively to the needs of that horse. She disinfected, she washed, she anointed with oil, soothing oil, healing oil. And believe me or not, Nellis runs as well now as she ever did before. And I will never again read the words, thou anointest my head with oil, without seeing in my mind a crippled, suffering horse and a little teenage girl. A girl who day after day was up at daylight and was out the door in the rain and the snow, sub-zero weather, because she cared. And I discovered in that and realized that our God is like that. When I was a boy, I worked on a farm. I worked hard, I played hard, I walked a mile to school. I carried a sack lunch, I ate at noon. By the time school was out at 4 o'clock, I was always hungry. By the time I walked home a mile, I considered myself half starved. To this day, I can remember the smell that would hit me when I opened the door on the days that my mother baked bread. How eagerly I reached out for that large piece she would have ready for me. I think there were some nights I would have sold my birthright for that slice of bread. And sometimes I wonder, do we really know what we're reading when we read the words, I am the bread of life. He who comes to me shall not hunger. Nothing in the world could have meant more to me after that dash home from school on a crisp autumn afternoon than having my mother standing in the kitchen with a piece of homemade bread just for me. Our God is like that, you know. I'm sentimental and my children mean a lot to me. When one of my children used to come running to me with skinned knees, I would drop whatever I was doing and do what the best I could to heal the hurt with ointment, perhaps a Band-Aid or a handkerchief. And I know a strange and wonderful joy when I'm able to comfort my children. You know what? God is like that. God will wipe away every tear from every eye, and death shall be no more. Neither shall be mourning, nor crying, nor pain any more, for all these things will pass away. What I do is on a human level, but I'm glad that Jesus used this very human example of a father-child relationship to tell us what our Heavenly Father really is like. We need to sense the reality of this. I think back now and I understand better than I did that some of the things that my parents did to care for me during the bleak days of the Great Depression. And I remember God is like that. Remember the passage, what man of you, if his son asks for a loaf, will give him a stone? Or if he asks for a fish, will instead give him a serpent? If you then who are evil know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more will your Father in heaven give good things to you who ask him? You know, sometimes I think I'm too sentimental. I remember the day that I had to blink back the tears when I roped a little filly and tied her down to pull some horrid porcupine quills from her tender nose. Oh, she cried and whimpered, and I couldn't make her understand why my concern for her caused me to hurt her so much. Sometimes God is like that too. His love for us is why he has to hurt us, and we simply cannot understand it at all. I remember a little orphan heifer that we raised. She didn't have the same herd instinct that the other cows had. And the first year I turned her out on the range when fall came, she and her calf did not come in with the other cattle. For the best part of 2 days, I rode hard covering the steepest, most isolated part of our range, fearing I would find her dead. And then one evening my phone rang and it was my neighbor saying he'd seen my cow and calf in a little isolated canyon where she had settled down for a while, perhaps not knowing how to get home. There was a great joy in the news that I felt, a joy that goes beyond the mere matter of economic gain or loss because of finding a cow and her calf. At daylight the next morning I rode out and brought her home. What rancher has not had the experience that makes so real the meaning of the great passage that says, if a man has 100 sheep and one of them goes astray, does he not leave the 99 on the hill and go and search for those that went astray? Our God is like that. My message to you today is he is always infinitely more than we can think.